Yeah, I'm Nick King. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, GBIF. The key issues really respond to the fact that data are collected by a myriad number of individual scientists, organizations around the world, but if they're not collected to certain standards, then you can't merge those data sets, and so you can't expand anything beyond the actual original study that was intended. Lots of the data sets that are being used are data sets that were collected historically. They were never intended even to be electronic, digital data, and so they've got to be converted to digital formats, those sorts of things. And data collected at different scales, different resolutions in different countries. There are different vocabularies used for different types of data. There's no standards on metadata, which is descriptions of data sets. So, I have a data set of birds of the tropical forest of Borneo. Unless you can describe that somewhere, if somebody's searching the web, they don't know that those data sets exist. So it's to try and standardize all of those things so that data sets are discoverable. So in other words, they're there somewhere, and then they're accessible because they're formatted to global standards. So recognizing all of those challenges, GBIF was the outcome of a OECD Global Science Forum report looking into these issues in 1999 that said a global biodiversity information facility should be established in order to try and set the global standards, broker the global standards for the global community, so that there was one standard, there was one infrastructure that everybody used, and it's all free and open source software, for example, so nobody has to pay for it because the governments themselves are paying for the operational budget of the Secretariat. It's difficult to say because we don't really have the data sets, but if we, by looking at the climate models, and a lot of work has been done by lots of different groups, it's that anywhere between about 30 and 50% of species losses in the next 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how much we do or don't curtail climate change. But by the end of the century, potentially in tropical areas, at least 90% species losses, because the tropical climate envelopes will all have shifted dramatically. And then if you add in all of the other impacts on, for example, tropical forests, deforestation, increases in fires as they dry out, those sorts of things. It's not just biodiversity loss from climate change, it's all the other things that are happening as well to those forests. The real challenges are that the data sets don't really exist. There are big gaps, particularly in the tropics, because the tropics are so complex and there are so many species, and we really haven't studied them to the depth that they should be studied. The opportunities are that basically ecosystem-based adaptation and biodiversity is the basis of ecosystems is really the only way we're going to adapt to climate change. So building biodiversity buffers along coastlines, for example, building artificial reefs that then become living breakwaters, using biodiversity to attenuate flood systems, breaking up hard surfaces that affect water flow. The opportunities are all there to basically build around nature, with nature, rather than completely trying to sort of command and control nature, which then leads to all of the problems that we see, particularly in urban environments. Well, I think people are pretty much saying that this is one of the last opportunities to get a legally binding agreement in place, or at least an agreement on a legally binding agreement, either Kyoto 2 or something post-Kyoto. As it's probably far too difficult to get an alternative to Kyoto, so a second commitment to Kyoto would be absolutely imperative. But with binding targets, emissions reductions, the whole of human history is only occurred in a space of less than 1 degree of climate change, of temperature changes. And here the negotiations are around keeping it below 2 degrees. Well, the convention's primary objective is to prevent dangerous climate change. You're not going to do it unless it's kept below 2 degrees C and then brought back to below 1 C. So we really, really do need those agreements at this COP. It's just it's getting too late otherwise.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.